Welcome back to Property Night. I'm Margaret Lomas, and on my panel this evening and taking your calls is Ben Kingsley from Empower Wealth and Michael Tees from Tees Lawyers. And so if you have any question at all about property, don't waste any time, pick up your phone and call us. The number is 1300 30 34 35. Or of course you can always email us at property@skynews.com.au. David from Sydney, what can we do for you?
Hi Margaret, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I'm a first-time property investor and I'm doing all my research and everything, and I'm looking at the Shoalhaven area. Now, I've checked out the suburbs of Nowra, Bomaderry and Warragee, and I thought I'd found a place that I'd like to buy in Warragee. So I went to have a look at the suburb, and I got a bit nervous because it's a large area of an awful lot of houses, and I did notice a lot of vacant lots were there. And I've got myself a bit nervous, and I'm thinking perhaps I should look elsewhere because of the vacant lots, and there just seem to be so many houses in this suburb, and I'm worried about that, and I've got myself in a bit of a
tiz.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get you sorted out, shall we, David? Michael, it's always a danger, isn't it, when you go and have a look at an area that you're going to buy in. I guess what David's managed to find out is something that he probably would have found out anyway without even going there. An area where there's a lot of vacant land. What do you think?
David, I was going to ask you, what's attracted you to this particular region?
Well, first of all, I like the area a lot anyway, and I did look through or read Margaret's Must Ask 20 Questions, and the Shoalhaven area does seem to me to be an area that I think does have some potential in the future, for many reasons.
Well, I guess you're on the right track. First of all, you're doing some research, which is more than a lot, so congratulations for that. And you've come across a concern. There's plenty of other areas in Sydney, David, that are crying out for investors at the moment, and that are likely to provide, really good gross rental yields. I was looking at some figures today from St Mary's, around that area, and there are rental properties there at sub $320,000 that are now showing over 5% gross yield. So there's plenty of parts of Sydney that have a critical shortage of rental accommodation. So you should not be taking any risks in areas where you think there might be an oversupply. So I'd encourage you at this stage, David, to keep looking. Go with your instincts. If you're concerned about the extent of vacancies, then move on, because there's plenty of places in Australia that are hovering between 0.8 and 1.5% vacancy, which is very, very tight, and indicates that that your investment in those types of areas would be very sound. I'm not sure of the vacancy rates off the top of my head in this particular part that you're looking at, but if you've got anything around 1%, then it's an undersupplied area.
Ben, I think, one of David's concern is that there's actually a lot of potential for people to actually build more houses there. Warragee's an area that's got a lot of vacant land available for building. What would you advise, David?
Look, David, your gut's telling you the right thing. It's not an area that I would be necessarily looking at if there's a lot of available land that's still to be utilised. Obviously land supply needs to be scarce. We need to make sure that the area is in a developed location. So I think from that point of view, I think your gut's telling you the right thing to keep looking and to continue your research. That first investment property is so important in terms of getting it right. Otherwise you're going to be sitting on the boundary line for a long time. So good luck and keep searching.
Now, David, you are definitely on the right track and you're asking the right questions, and Shoalhaven itself isn't actually a bad area for you to be buying in. And you did mention Nowra amongst the properties or the areas that you're looking at, and I found Nowra to stack up very nicely under the 20 questions. The vacancy rate is extremely low in Nowra at the moment, and already just in the last 6 months there's been a real surge in values. Now, there's a lot of undervalued property on the side of Nowra that is former Housing Commission. A lot of people tend to stay away from those kinds of properties initially until the rest of the area is all bought out and properties begin to rise, and then the Housing Commission, ex-Housing Commission properties become under demand as well. If you're going to buy in the Shoalhaven area at all, it would definitely be Nowra that I'm looking at, not Warragee or any of those other ones, Bomaderry, because they still do have plenty of room for future development. Of course, as the boys have said, there's a lot of other areas in Australia that has better potential than some of those areas that you're looking at the moment. Sergi from Sydney, what can we do for you?
Good evening. My question, basically, I would like to ask about duplexes. And our story is we sort of invest in almost 10 years, and it was a successful story for us. And now we sold off the properties and cashed up, put money on the house, and we basically got quite good, around 1 mil loan approved for next investment. And our idea is we are thinking about to build duplexes, and I would like to ask opinion about what the pitfalls and advantages of building duplexes. Basically, we want to buy land and build a couple of duplexes, or alternatively, we can just buy existing ones without paying of building, and just, if it's possible, your opinion on the this matter.
Okay, thank you, Sergi. I guess, Ben, there's a couple of things, issues here. Not only whether or not Sergi should be looking at building duplexes, but the pitfalls of building as an investor. There's also some of those, aren't there?
You're a passive investor or an active investor,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, what would you like to tell Sergi?
Look, Sergi, I think from my point of view, it's the time allocation. Technically, you're going to be spending a lot of time in managing this project unless you bring a project manager in, and obviously that delivers a cost element to it as well. It's a specialised area. You've obviously had success in the past from what you were saying, and obviously you've had a long time to look at that investment. So for me, it's really about making sure that that you look at these type of activities in a full sense of, what's it going to involve and what sort of timelines do I have to achieve this, to see whether it's going to be a viable option. I mean, going the other way and just basically having a situation where you can handpick existing stock and be a passive investor can also deliver the same results with less headaches.
Michael, what about duplexes?
Yeah, Sergi, my legal practice specialises in looking after people in body corporates and duplexes and other forms of community housing. Whenever you put two people together with shared floors, walls and ceilings, there's a potential for conflict. And so as the landlord of a duplex, there is always that element of personal conflict and interaction which is possible. 9 out of 10 times that's going to be manageable and indeed not an issue at all. People will make their own arrangements and get on in a perfectly civilised way. But occasionally, just occasionally, there will be issues that arise because people don't get on, and that can be very intense in a duplex. When a duplex relationship goes bad, it goes very bad because of the intensity of it. So that's just something to be aware of, but I wouldn't make my investment decision based upon that. I think look at whether or not you're passive or active in terms of development. If you want to undertake a development process, then a duplex is manageable and can reap some fantastic rewards for you.
Just one last word of caution for you, Sergi. If you are deciding to buy or build a duplex, what you're actually doing is you're putting all of your eggs into the one basket as well at the same time. If you're a new investor at the moment, you don't have any other investment properties and this is your first, you might prefer to look at buying 2 different properties in 2 different places to start with so that you can balance them out a little. You really do need some good advice on this one, and it depends on what your ultimate aims are.